Alright guys, we got another versus video for you today. We're going to be looking at the Benchmade mini Griptilian versus the full-size Griptilian. What really are the differences, the price points, and basically overall which one do I like better. So first things first, these guys are basically mirror images of each other. Of course the main Griptilian, the full-size, came first and the mini was developed later. People just love this knife. I mean, it's very well made. It's got a long history within the Benchmade family, and a lot of people just absolutely love it. Mini Griptilian came along, and I think it actually won more hearts than the full-size Griptilian. So we'll kind of talk about that now really quickly. Price points on the two today. Online, the mini Griptilian, 90 bucks. The full size, you're looking at about 110, 115, give or take. If you want the black version, you can definitely get it for 110. If you want a colored version or coated blade, you're going to be paying more money for that. So really quickly, the differences on these guys are very, very minimal. Really, it just comes down to size. So the blade length here on the mini Griptilian, first of all, is just under 3 inches. I think it's like 2.95 or something like that. On the full size, you're looking at 3.45. So basically a ½ inch difference in blade length, which actually isn't very much when you consider how much larger the full-size Griptilian really looks compared to the mini. A ½ inch on blade length is really very not a whole lot of cutting edge. So interestingly enough, they're running the same steel. They're running the same steel, basically the same grind. Now there is also the Doug Ritter version, but we're just going to stick to the Mel Pardue version because that's the one I have, and it's the one I'm most familiar with. So interestingly enough here, the mini Griptilian has full steel liners all the way to the end. The full-size Griptilian, it's kind of way in the back there, you can see it, has liners only up to about here, and the liner itself kind of tapers down to here. So there's actually plastic there, and way in the back you can see the line where the liner comes. So it kind of, from here, it kind of tapers down to there. Interestingly enough, I kind of spent some time looking at these two, and you'll find that since the liner only comes to there, the actual liners, the steel liners on the mini Griptilian are larger than on the full-size Griptilian, which is kind of weird. The full-size Griptilian in hand kind of feels a little bit cheap, and for me personally, that's why I didn't buy this knife for so long. Just handling it in the store, and that noise, opening's okay, but closing kind of sounds hollow. It kind of sounds a little weird, and the fact that it's such a plastic handle, I couldn't justify spending the money on this knife for a long time. But when I finally did get it, I realized I do love this knife, and I totally get the hype. It's justified hype. Now again, this one does have the liner hole, same size liner hole. You can put 550 cord through there. One thing that I'm not, now keep in mind, I did order the mini Griptilian first, and I hadn't handled the full-size Griptilian in a while. But one of the things that I prefer on the mini Griptilian is how tightly checkered the this sort of faux handle scale, or whatever you want to call it, this faux insert, is really, really nicely gripped. And on the full size, it's actually bigger, but these are a lot smoother, and so you don't get as nice of a grip. I would much prefer they took this small checkering and applied it to the large handle, because the larger one is not as aggressive on your hand. Now the full size one does fit better in hand. It is a very thick knife though, in the handle, quite a bit thicker, and that is one of the drawbacks to this knife, is it does take up a lot of your pocket room. However, it fills the hand really nicely. Again, this sort of jimping on top isn't great, but the jimping on the top of the spine here is nice. Another interesting thing is on the bottom, the liner jimping is longer. The metal jimping here is longer on the mini Griptilian, which I thought was interesting. And it does feel better in hand to me. If the full-size Griptilian was as thin as this, I think it would be worth it, but you know, I like it. Now, for the final verdict here, you know, I'm gonna have to give it to the Mini Griptilian again, simply because it's a much better EDC pocketable knife. If I'm gonna go to something this size, I think that there's some other options out there that are a little bit more competitive, especially in that price point of $110, $120. But again, a really, really good knife. Both of these knives, excellent knives. You know, they've really brought in my Benchmade addiction, we'll say. And I will probably look at getting at least another one of each of these because they're such good knives. I don't know what I would do if I lost it or broke it or whatnot. So, you know, just for the sake of this argument here, I'm gonna have to give it to the Mini Griptilian. Just a better overall pocketable knife, really a ½ inch difference on cutting performance, and you end up with a lot more knife. It's got a lot more off the tail end here. The Mini Griptilian just feels a little bit more reassuring in hand. It feels a little more solid, a little bit better built. It is a newer model, so of course it's gonna have that kind of feel to it as well. They've obviously improved upon the design here. Another side note, on the face of it, the Mini Griptilian is actually held together with more screws. If you look, there's a screw right at the pocket clip here. That's not on this one here. Another thing to note is the pocket clip screws into the steel liners on the Mini Griptilian, and on the full-size Griptilian, I don't know if I can get it on the camera, but you can kind of see it screws into the plastic, and what they've done is they've glued, it looks like maybe brass or something like that, little pins in there that the screws go into. You can kind of see them, if you own one, you can kind of see them through the pocket clip holes on the opposite side. You can see the little metal pieces, but they're just glued into the plastic handle, which I'm not crazy about. It hasn't been a design flaw yet. I've never had the pocket clip pop off or anything like that, or any failure as far as the integrity of this knife, but it's just a little bit more reassuring to see it screwed into steel liner. So in this one, again, I give it to the Mini Griptilian. Thanks, guys.